Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mehdi, sometimes known as Haji Mehdi, and it's my honor to welcome you all to the very first episode of Behind the Minbar, hosted here at Masjid Al-Rasool Al-A'zam in Toronto, Canada. My very first guest is someone special. He came from all the way from Canton, Michigan. He is the Imam of MECCA in Michigan, and it is the man himself, Sayyid Saleh Qazwini. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, doing well. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much for coming all this way.
My honor.
What are your thoughts on, this setup so far?
I love it. It always gets me very excited, and I get very happy to see Muslim youth across the world doing these creative programs, these creative activities. A podcast is something that is very beneficial, very useful, and I've seen sometimes given lectures. It doesn't get as much views as, for example, a podcast would. I don't know what's the secret behind it, but I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Sayyidina. So we're just winding down from tearful, I don't want to say maybe action-packed 2 nights of Fatimiyyah Majalis. There were a lot of emotions. There was a lot of tears, crying, where we remember the tragedy of Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, Fatimah al-Zahra. So my first thought is, what is the relation between Fatimiyyah and the rest of the masa'ib of Ahlul Bayt, يعني بشكل عام?
I would say that actually the days of Fatimiyya are very important to commemorate, and the events that took place on the days of Fatimiyya, the catastrophes and calamities that fell upon Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam, they were actually the beginning of the masa'ib that fell upon the other members of the Ahlul Bayt, for example, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And actually there are some poets I know for sure in Arabic, for example, they say that if the door of Fatima was not attacked, if the rib of Fatima was not broken, then the ribs of Imam al-Hussein would not have been broken on the day of Ashura. So there is a correlation, and they all lead to one another. And when we commemorate Fatimiyya, it actually makes you think of why things happened the way they were. A lot of people, they cry for Imam al-Hussein during Muharram and Safar, but we need to ask the question is, what led to Imam al-Hussein being killed? And the answer, you will find the answer on the days of Fatimiyya. That was what happened on the days of Fatimiyya was what led to the calamity of Karbala and the day of Imam al-Hussein, where he was killed in daylight in front of over 30,000 Muslims, but they killed the grandson of the Prophet.
SubhanAllah. We see now that they're online, especially on platforms such as TikTok, Instagram Reels, these kind of things. Fatimiyya is always a touchy subject, especially among the youth. There's arguments, fights, varying opinions on this subject. Is there other basis to these concerns about Fatimiyya and, enlivening the rituals of Fatimiyya? Or are those more just, noise in the background?
So if we begin to look at things, look at the facts, do research and see what scholars have said, you will see that there's not that much to dispute about. In fact, the events that fell upon Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam, they are to an extent unanimously agreed upon. Now, there are some details that probably some people question, and they have the right to question them. It's okay. But we are not trying to talk about specific details, but more importantly, when we commemorate Fatimah al-Zahra, we're trying to give a holistic image to the world that Fatimah al-Zahra was oppressed. Would anyone question us with that? No, of course not. Fatimah al-Zahra, things happened where she was oppressed by the establishment that came to power, and she said certain things. We mentioned in our majalis, Bukhari, for example, he mentions that Fatima Zahra, she died while she was angry in three separate ahadith, three separate narrations. In Bukhari, he mentions that she died while she was angry with that establishment. There are other sources that says that they threatened to attack the house of Fatima Zahra. And others they say they did attack. Now, regarding some of the details here and there, yes, maybe some would say I don't have sufficient evidence to prove this, but even those people who question that specific detail, they don't question the whole image and the whole story of what happened, and that is Fatima Zahra was oppressed.
Sahih. I guess a lot of the times people talk about Fatimiyya, they talk about the historical factors, things aren't certain, we don't know what happened. But in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like that's kind of the case with a lot of history in general and Islamic history. We don't know exactly what happened. You know, we don't have a timeline or an itinerary of what time this thing happened exactly when. A lot of the Maqtal of Karbala is not known for certain what happened exactly, and but we carry on these traditions as they were passed down. And if you look just across Islamic history, it's not certain what happened. But I guess we do know a few key facts, such as she died young, and as you said, she died angry with certain individuals. Um, so I feel like if we look at it from that kind of perspective, it's clear that something happened, right?
Of course, it is very clear that Fatima Zahra was upset, and there are narrations. I mentioned in my majlis that over 80 Sunni scholars mentioned that the attack of Fatima Zahra was either attacked or threatened to be attacked, and that by itself is enough to we rest our case, meaning that Fatima Zahra was oppressed. Ibn Taymiyyah, who is he's known for not being a fan of the Ahl al-Bayt. This is the least thing that we could say. He says that Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima Zahra and Bani Hashim, they had some money that belonged to the Muslims in their house, so therefore that justifies the attack on the house of Imam Ali. Meaning, he's even going further to accuse Imam Ali of, la samahallah, stealing money from the Muslims. And of course, this is something that we definitely reject. But he acknowledges that there was an attack on the house of Fatima Zahra. There was some action in front of the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima Zahra. Ibn Taymiyyah, yes.
That.
Yes, because he tries to give the excuse. He says because there was belongings, things that belonged to the Muslims, so they had to go in and retrieve them.
Profound, yeah.
Yes.
The head of the snake himself is saying.
So, but the point is, critical thinking is always a good thing. We don't want people to just accept things right away. No, go and do your own research. Go and do your own critical thinking. Remove the bias from your heart. Do your own research, and you will find the truth.
Sahih. Another thing that like we acknowledge in Fatimiyya and these majalis is that, let's say, the attendance is not necessarily comparable or close to that of Muharram, to that in Shahr Ramadan, Istishhad Imam Ali, Layal al-Qadr. What is it about Fatimiyya? I've even heard from some elders, they say, oh, this is something new or something. And I realize that a lot of the youth, they do not treat Fatimiyya, they don't hold it in the same standard as they hold the rest of the other masa'ib of Ahlul Bayt, salamullah alayhum. And I believe there's a hadith that says that we are the proofs of Allah upon the people, and Fatima is a proof of Allah upon us. So Fatima herself has, a particular standing in the ranks of Ahlul Bayt, salamullah alayhum. So how do we reignite that kind of the same love and affection that the shabab, that the youth have for the majalis of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? How can we reignite that or instill that in the youth to attend the majalis of Fatimiyya, to understand the masab and the tragedies of Sayyidah Fatima?
So, of course, we have to keep in mind that we can't compare the majalis of all the imams and the ma'sumin with that of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein, his musibah is unique in its way, in the way he was killed. And this is why you don't even need to do anything, and people will just come to the majalis of Imam al-Hussein. But with regards to Fatimiyyah, the Shahada of the Prophet, of Imam al-Hassan, of Amir al-Mu'mineen, of all the Imams, we have a duty to remember the Imams, celebrate the happy occasions, commemorate the sad occasions. Now, also there's room for culture as well. Some cultures, or for example, you go to, for example, in Iraq, maybe some places in Pakistan, maybe some places across the Muslim world, they do hold 10 nights, 15 nights, 20 nights of majalis straight,
Yeah.
and people attend. So we shouldn't kind of get disappointed or be kind of feel that just because maybe right now here in Toronto, maybe you didn't get the crowd that you got in Muharram, that means that Fatimiyya is not being revived. No, Fatimiyya is being revived. First of all, there are several narrations of the Masa'ib of Fatima Zahra. So there's no unanimous consensus amongst the Shia, amongst the Muslims, that Fatima Zahra was passed away on this particular day. Whereas with Imam al-Hussein, does anyone question the day of
Ashura, the
Ashura?
10th
The
of
day of
Ashura.
Ashura is known across the Muslim world. It's actually, you find Muslims, for example, Muslims, Shia and Sunni are different opinions on the birth of the Prophet.
Sahih.
On the departure of Rasulullah, there's no set opinion. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa so with Fatima Zahra, also you have with the days of her departure, you have 75 days after the death of the Prophet, 40 days, you have 95 days. So this variation and there's no set date. That kind of leaves it to doesn't make it very clear. So some people say we will commemorate the next Fatimiyya. Some people say we'll commemorate the first. But generally speaking, it's good to remember the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. You don't attend the majlis, at least remember and put them in your heart and make sure that you are following the Ahlul Bayt. That's what's most important.
Santum. Next point is kind of related to that topic, and it's how to address the issue of Fatimiyya, which is a bit contentious, and we are addressing it to the general Muslim population. It's especially the youth, they find it difficult. Or on the other side, some people find it very easy to talk about this person did this to say that Fatima, this person did this. Where should we fall across that spectrum in terms of being very proud and maybe aggressive with our beliefs, or being kind of quietist and saying, we should keep it to ourselves?
So, as you said, it is a contentious issue, and it kind of you're getting in, like, sometimes stating some of the facts will get some people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, we have to look at the facts. We have to read the history, analyze history. There's a lot of days in the Islamic history that are dark days, days that make people uncomfortable. But this is the reality. We can't just ignore certain realities just because it makes us be uncomfortable. We wish we wouldn't have to commemorate the days of Fatima. We wish we wouldn't have to commemorate that Fatima Zahra, when she was so young, she left this world and her children became orphaned and all of that. That would be something that we would also like. But this is the reality. And this reality has been documented and narrated not only in the Shi'i books. In fact, most of, probably 99% of what we and the Shi'i scholars have written and what they say in their majalis, most of it is documented, especially the historical aspects. They have been documented in Tabari, for example, and by Sunni scholars. They've mentioned a lot of these events. So just because someone gets uncomfortable, that doesn't mean that we should not state the historical facts. But there's also a fine line between being critical thinking, saying the facts, and the other side is insulting other people, insulting general Sunni population today. We have no right to insult other Muslims. What do they have to do with something that happened 1400 years ago?
Exactly.
We should not insult anyone. And when we speak, let us follow, and when we commemorate, let us try to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sunnah of the Prophet, the Sunnah of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They made sure that historical and important factual points are mentioned, but they did it in a way where they are not hurting the other people's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa invited people to Islam, and he did it in a very kind way, in a very gentle manner. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. Use wisdom, use good admonishments. Do not always seek to attack people. I see some Shi'as, you know, they make it about, for example, other Sunnis right now in their
You
community.
should
This
see
is wrong.
TikTok say it. It's a mess.
Is that what's going on in
Yeah,
TikTok?
everyone. It's just a cesspool of people attacking each other, people insulting other people's role models, and like you said, it's just people seeking to degrade the other person's beliefs. My beliefs are right. Your beliefs are wrong. This is what happened, and we'll see on the day of judgment. Bainama, I feel like having an actual dialogue, having open discourse, speaking about the facts is more, kind of, let's say, important or more amenable to this kind of to addressing this kind of topic.
Exactly. This is why we have to empower ourselves with knowledge, empower ourselves, surround ourselves with scholars that actually, you know, they back what they say with facts, with evidence, with proofs, using primary sources, rather than just someone coming and saying something, you know, on the minbar or on TikTok or using some sort of pulpit. We have to be careful who we listen to, who we take our information from. Just because something is on YouTube or on TikTok or wherever it is, that doesn't make it right just because it was uploaded
Yeah.
online. So we have to kind of do our due diligence. We have to do research, and we have to, even when we listen to scholars, we have to try to see where is the source coming from. Where is this mentioned?
Don't accept things blindly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sent him. So I just want to kind of segue this to a popular, or let's say very prevalent topic now. And that's the topic of the plight of our brothers and sisters, I mean, in Palestine. We see what has gone on, over 10,000 people killed, um, and all kinds of atrocities committed. And of course, we condemn that, and we condemn, all innocent loss of life. Um, but we see, especially in our own communities, some people have a kind of a disdain for talking about Palestine, for being proactive about Palestine. Um, they say you should spend your time in the majalis. And right now, Fatimiyyah is the same time that there's a lot of protests happening. How dare you go to a protest?
Mm.
You should be at the majlis. How do we address this kind of, like, how do we balance these things? We have a balance, kind of a social balance, a moral balance, a religious balance, and a way to address these issues.
So I don't know about what others would think about this, but my belief is that when we remember Fatima Zahra, when we remember Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah, Imam al-Hussein, the Imams of the Ahl Bayt, one of the first things that they teach us is to defend the oppressed. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he tells his sons, Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, on his deathbed, he tells them, كُونَ لِلظَّالِمِ خَصْمًا وَلِلْمَظْلُومِ عَوْنًا. Tells them in his
Exactly.
will, he says, be an enemy of the oppressor and be a supporter of anyone who's been oppressed. And I believe that because we follow the Ahlul Bayt, we have to be more in the defense of the oppressed wherever they may be, whatever their nationality is, whatever the color of their skin, whatever language, whatever culture they come from, and even if they have different beliefs as us. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was in Kufa and he heard that the army of Muawiyah they started towards the end of the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The army of Muawiyah was basically, they were closing in. They
Yeah.
were closing in Iraq, and they were
Yeah.
raiding certain towns and cities. And they raided a city and a town, a village that was inhabited by Ahlul Kitab, meaning non-Muslims from either Jews or Christians. And he says in Nahj al-Balagha, he says, I heard, وَلَقَدْ بَلَغَنِي أَنَّ الرَّجُلَ مِنْهُمْ كَانَ يَدْخُلْ عَلَى الْمَرْأَةِ الْمُسْلِمَةِ وَالْأُخْرَى الْمُعَاهَدَةِ. He would enter on
Yeah.
the Muslimah or the Mu'ahada, meaning someone who they have a covenant with the Muslims, and he pulls her earring and he takes away her belongings, and she can't do anything to defend herself, and people, they stayed silent. They didn't do anything to defend this lady. And then he says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ امْرِئًا مُسْلِمًا مَاتَ مِنْ بَعْدِهَا أَسَفًا مَا كَانَ عِنْدِي مَلُومًا. He says, if someone hears that a non-Muslim lady is being attacked the way she is being attacked, and they die out of anxiety and out of stress, I wouldn't blame this person. So now, are the people in Palestine, are they not Muslim? Are they not believers? Are they not people who say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? Of course they do. And that means that if we truly love the Ahl Bayt, we have to defend them. And we have to speak the truth. We have to speak against aggression. Some people, they're afraid. And some people, they try to, they don't want to inconvenience themselves. But I believe that if the Ahl Bayt were here, they would be defending the oppressed, whoever they may be.
Of course. And I believe it's not, some people like to say, oh, because of the majalis, because of what happened to Sayyida Zahra, what happened to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, that we should not be, siding with the nawasib, let's say, or protecting them. But I would probably word it in a different way. I would say it's because of those tragedies that happened, because of their stance against oppression, that we must take a page out of their book, that we must stand against oppression. Whoever the oppressed is, that's the akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt. And if we are true followers of them, we should be doing that.
So first of all, who is the Nasibi? Nasibi is the person who has declared their hatred against the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Where are you going to find someone who actually says that and practices it and implements it? That doesn't represent, that probably represents a very, very, very minute and small proportion of the Muslims. Not anyone who just doesn't, is not a Shi'i can be declared a Nasibi. This is, you can't, we can't accuse just because someone is a Sunni, accuse them of being Nasibi. This is wrong. And yes, I'll tell you, there were images, and when, for example, when Saddam was executed or whatever happened to him, there were images coming out of some parts of the Muslim world of people mourning Saddam.
Yeah.
And this makes other people, and of course the Shi'as, they were victims of Saddam and his atrocities. He caused a war with Iran. He put a lot of the Shia Iraqis, he put them on the front lines to fight the Iranian Shias as well on the other side. He killed a lot of the scholars. He attacked the Hausa. But one thing, we have to kind of, if we look at things from far, yes, that angers me that they are, for example, mourning Saddam, because in my view, Saddam was not a good person. But the people who are mourning Saddam, we have to be fair. They didn't see anything wrong from Saddam.
Exactly.
They didn't see anything wrong. In fact, Saddam, they'll come and they'll say Saddam, actually, he fired missiles at Israel. And he tries to defend the Palestinian cause. Now, whether that's true or not, whether he actually achieved something or not, is a different issue. But for them, they see him as a hero. So sometimes when politics gets involved, people start hating on other people. Bashar al-Assad, same thing. Some people are his fans, other people are not his fans. And other politicians here and there. But we should not allow politics to get in the way of defending the truth and defending the oppressed, whoever they may be.
Ahsantum. And I think it's also kind of almost ridiculous to say that the children in Gaza, half of the population of Gaza is children who weren't alive when Saddam was around. And half of them did, and a lot of the innocent children, over 3,000 innocent children killed. Those, they don't know what a Nasibi is. They don't know.
Of course.
It's preposterous to actually accuse them of being Nawasib. They're innocent children, and an innocent child dying is a crime, no matter who their parents are or their grandparents are.
Of course, that's why we have to use reason. We have to defend the oppressed, and even if they have a different belief as me, we still have to defend them.
So we ask Allah to protect the Palestinian people, to save them from this. Just to wrap up, Sayed, I heard there's some news regarding the new center in Canton, the new MECCA center. If you'd like to just share with us, what's the updates on MECCA and Canton?
So alhamdulillah, we started this center, the Muslim Educational Community Center of America, and the acronym is MECCA. Of course, it's not Mecca, Mecca in
Saudi
the
Arabia.
city that the Prophet was born in. That's the holy city. This is in
This is Canton, in
Canton.
Michigan,
Yes, in Michigan.
the
It's a
heart of
small city
America.
close to Dearborn. Um, but Alhamdulillah, we started a center. It's pretty vibrant. It's small. We're currently renting, but Alhamdulillah, the good news is we purchased a piece of land. The community, of course,
Inshallah.
the community, they chipped in, and they all got together, and Alhamdulillah, we were able to purchase a piece of land. Now we're in the next step.
Amazing.
Inshallah, we're trying to get the architectural designs to build a community center
Amazing.
and to do something that will benefit the Muslims and educate the people about the religion of Islam, and be a place where the youth and the adults and the young and the old and the women and the children and the men and everyone could feel that a place where they could belong and be proud of their Islamic identity, be proud of their Islamic heritage, and learn about the religion of Islam.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I visited the center of Mecca, and it was
Alhamdulillah.
beautiful. It's a great community, very diverse, and it seems like the Thursday night program or the Friday night program, those they really, they're well attended and well received by the community. So
Alhamdulillah. I
inshallah.
think one of the reasons is because a lot of the programs are a little bit unique. They're not just your ordinary program. Something like this podcast you're doing. This is unique, and these type of unique programs, they gravitate people. They attract people. So you have to kind of think outside the box, and it's okay to do things a little bit different. Just because our parents and our grandparents they did things in one way, that doesn't mean, as long as we are within the boundaries of Islam, the boundaries of akhlaq, do things a little bit different here and there. Sometimes it doesn't always have to be a lecture. It could be a discussion. It could be um, having youth talking, having women voice their, having a role
Yeah,
in the community,
for
and
sure.
then this will be attracting people, inshallah.
Sent him.
Yeah.
Inshallah, all the tawfiq for Mecca and for all the great work you do, Sayyid Saleh. I'm sure there's loads of people that always try to see what Sayyid Saleh gonna be up to next.
Thank
MashaAllah.
you,
There's
brother. And
so much
thank
to
you
learn from you.
for, may Allah bless you for all that you're doing. Behind the Minbar is,
Yeah.
mashallah,
And you're
very
at the
beautiful.
Masjid Al-Rasool, and we're also trying to be outside of the box, trying to rework the standard, the standard program, and something that's
I
more
noticed,
appealing to the
mashallah.
youth.
I
So this is
noticed.
just one example of that, inshallah.
Inshallah, this you could be a role model for other communities, and they could also follow. And we're
Inshallah.
all collectively working to empower Muslims, educate others about the religion of Islam, and serve Allah while we're doing it.
Thank you so much, Sayyid.
Alhamdulillah. Thank
Inshallah.
you.
Allah yuwafiqna. So that concludes the first episode of Behind the Minbar with Sayyid Saleh. So please go check out Mecca Media on Instagram, I believe, and Sayyid Saleh on Instagram. Follow what they're doing. Also be sure to drop a follow to Al-Rasool_youth.
You guys have an Instagram?
Yeah, of course. And also on
I'm gonna
Behind the
follow it right
Minbar.
now.
Follow us live. We're getting a live follow from Sayyid Saleh Qazwini. Behind
But
the
I have to
Minbar.
find it.
BEHINDTHEMINBAR.
I found it. Okay.
Behind the Minbar.
Follow right there.
We got a let's go from the editor. And a
Yalla.
follow from Sayyid Saleh Qazwini himself. لعلى محمد
Muhammad wa
وآل
ali
Muhammad. This set design, the panels and the sign were also made by a dear brother of ours in the community. Follow them, check them out. Etched Creations on Instagram. So we thank them for this beautiful design and how it turned out. And yeah, so keep up. And inshallah, we'll see you guys next time on Behind the Minbar.
Inshallah. Inshallah. May Allah bless you.
Assalamu alaikum. Sayyid.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.